welcome.
Fantastic.
It's a pleasure to see you here, and it's a great pleasure now. In the next 15 minutes, I'll be having a talk, a fireside chat with Mathias Ruch. Mathias Ruch is the founder of CVVC. He's the CEO. He's a pioneer in the space. He's a serial entrepreneur, and he's an amazing, wonderful human being. So welcome to the stage, Mathias Ruch. Have a seat. Now, Mathias, we would like to hear a little bit all about your journey as a founder, as an entrepreneur. And you've ended up here in Davos with the Web3 hub that you've also initiated. Now, I've known Mathias for over 20 years. I remember he hired me for his TV production company, 2025, I believe it was. Now, your journey, if we want to understand a little bit how you ended up here anyway, or in the first place, we need to understand a little bit where you're coming from. And I would say that you've developed a spark for technology way back, because you've mentioned, or you told me during our call, that your father in the 80s and 90s was actually selling computers, PCs, to big corporations and enterprises. So you were surrounded at home with all these gadgets. Now, would you say that, this environment maybe shaped the spark for technology in your life?
It absolutely did. So it was the time when, also governments replaced typewriters with PCs, basically, at the time. So we always had the latest gear at home. I remember laptops the size of a mid-range suitcase, or the first cell phones. But what really completely changed my life was when my dad brought home the first US robotics modem. I don't remember when it was, but that was basically pre-websites. Maybe the internet was about to come, but you would use this thing. I'm not sure if any one of you even knows what a modem is, but you would use those things and log into another computer, preferably on the other side of the world. In my case, a lot of US servers. And then you could do different things. And I was basically only chatting with fellow enthusiasts. I was not programming at the time. I was into music, so I was composing music with my computer and sharing them, across the globe.
So you had an early fascination for technology. Now, talking about music and technology, I believe this was in 2003 where MySpace was founded, later on than Facebook. But before Facebook, before dating apps like Tinder, in fact, you have built several platforms all around chatting and dating. You've also founded a web design agency. You started producing TV formats that focused on internet convergence. You've sold also a TV show out of Switzerland into the Chinese market. What would you say, what did you learn, or what did those Web1 and Web2 projects and experiments, very successful experiments, by the way, teach you about the market, about hype in the market, about timing in the market, and about adoption in the market? So we're talking early 2000s, right? So
all of these phases, to me, they were almost infectious, right? So they spread so fast, and I remember when I was studying at university, I was doing my MBA, and we all just wanted to get into the internet and create a business there. But there was also a lot of reservation at the beginning, like it's always is the case with technologies. So we were referring to those community tools that we built for companies at the time. So, chat solutions or forums, before there was Facebook, basically. And at some point, we've introduced, I remember it was called a chat and dating platform for teenagers. And there was no Tinder and that stuff around. And that was also the time when I think the industry that used the internet the most effective was the porn industry. And not all of my colleagues, female colleagues' moms, liked what I was doing at the time. So there was a lot of reservation, a lot of prejudice when it comes to those technologies. And fast forward now to Web3, when we started our company 10 years ago, it was exactly the same. And the challenge that we had at the time was, I remember the discussions we had. We were focusing on the technology behind Bitcoin. And even today, a lot of people confuse Bitcoin with blockchain, and basically they only know Bitcoin, but there's many more things to this technology. So people, we were saying, yes, this is used for terrorism financing, money laundering, and you couldn't come through with the real use cases. So you really had to fight that narrative for a long, long time, to be honest.
Now, before we talk about how you ended up in the Web3 space with CVVC, let's understand a little bit. So in 2006, you've sold your company, it was a TV production company, very successfully, and you became an angel investor. Now, starting to invest in Web2 startups, were there any frustrations for you around how the capital was raised at the time for the startups?
There was a lot of frustration around the time. I mean, being in the early stage startup scene, everyone struggles with the same things. Everything is scarce, basically, talent, money, of course, and for us, we just try to do things differently. And one aspect was because you were always, all the founders that we've invested in, you were always short in money, but you want to work with the best there are, right? So you need to come up with new ideas. And of course, we wanted to kind of have them participate in future liquidity events, for example, without having them to be shareholders. So we were looking for basically for software that could do the job, just do the legal side of things and the admin side of things, and this is actually how I discovered blockchain. So I'm not an early Bitcoin, unfortunately. I'm not an early Bitcoin guy, but we looked at smart contracts and how you could automate that stuff. So that's how my Web3 journey started.
So what was the exact discovery? And I kind of remember this was around 2015, 2016. It was Ethereum that you discovered. And what made you believe that this is not just another hype? Because you started to invest and believe in it. You created a vision, an entrepreneurial vision around it. What made you believe that this is going to be potentially a structural shift more than just a hype?
So at the time, I remember maybe 13, 14, we were looking into different ways of financing, getting funds for the startups besides VC and all of that. And we were looking into the crowdfunding market at the time. And at that time, it was said to grow faster than VC. And if you look at Ethereum, so how they raised their money, it was basically crowdfunding based on crypto. So they would raise money through Bitcoin to introduce their ETH, their own token, basically. And this, of course, was massive at the time. And then only shortly after, in 2015, there was this big hack with the DAO, right? But they raised a lot of money at the time. So you had to take notice of that. And that was then around 2006, as you said, when we realized this is happening in front of our doors. The Crypto Valley is a term coined for Switzerland's crypto blockchain ecosystem, and the heart of it is in Zug, in central Switzerland. And why? Because Ethereum, the founders, settled down there and built their product and shipped it to the world. And this happened in front of our doors. And literally, just so you can imagine how this felt at the time, it really felt like Silicon Valley, has moved and is now called Crypto Valley.
In Switzerland, in small Switzerland. Now, so this year you are in a way celebrating a 10-year anniversary of CVVC. Now, for those in the room who might not have heard of CVVC, can you tell us in a nutshell, what are you focused on? What is CVVC?
So the basic thesis of when we became active around that time, so that was a predecessor company of CVVC, was basically, if you get to see 80-90% of the global deal flow of a new technology like blockchain at the time, just compared to AI in this phase, and if you employ a standardized and systematic investment approach, you're going to have another Dropbox, Airbnb in your basket at some point in time. So that's how we started. Other people were, going after finance. They would create the crypto banks or asset management, and we were focusing on venture capital to get early capital for the space, and that's still the case basically. So we invest in early stage. A startup through our own acceleration programs, and we've also built an ecosystem around that called CB Labs.
You've just mentioned your acceleration programs. With CVVC, you didn't just build a fund. You've actually also built a whole ecosystem that fosters global innovation in the space. Why did you do that? And can I argue that this is probably even as important as CVVC, or?
Yeah, it is very important. It's something we strongly believe in, is that ecosystem approach. If you look at how VC evolved over time, of course, the big jams in VC are the Americans, the US, and then Asia, Europe, not so much, right? So, but that was basically let's call it an old boys club, right? So the large US VCs, they are 5-6 times oversubscribed. You can't just get in, right? So, and then how they select and eventually exit companies is based on their specific networks, partnerships. It's a very secluded kind of a group that you want to belong to. And we took the approach that you need much more than just a bunch of well-networked guys. You need a platform and all the partners that you can get in your niche, in your industry. And since we had that focus on blockchain and crypto, we wanted to build the network and invite all of the stakeholders in the space to work with us. That included governments very early on, because we anticipated this is all going to be regulated. But whomever there is, from the protocols to the applications that were built, and create that network so that the startups that are with us can grow faster, they can accelerate the growth, which then in turn also means that this is basically de-risking our portfolio.
You've mentioned governments. You were part or are part of different initiatives. You were involved in initiating the Swiss Blockchain Federation. You've helped shape Crypto Valley in Switzerland. Now, let's say before COVID, around 2019, 2020, right? Did you feel that you are part of something that could become something historic, bigger than Switzerland? Did you feel that?
Yeah, no, that was clear. I mean, Switzerland had this amazing pole position at the very beginning, given the regulator at that time, not so much today, was very friendly when it comes to this industry. And then, network effects kicked in and more companies came, and then we grew to over 1,000 companies. I think today it's over 1,700 companies in Switzerland, which is remarkable. It's quite big. It's over $500 billion of market cap that's in Switzerland in this industry. But of course, if something so big is happening and is changing a lot of industries, others are going to catch up. And that happened very fast over time. The US is now dominating this from a regulatory perspective. And we lost ground.
Now, there's still a lot of noise, or maybe more noise than ever in the space. Some or a lot of projects are short-lived. Now, you as a visionary, you stay very focused over the 10 years with CVVC, creating the ecosystem with CV Labs. How do you do that? How do you stay so focused? And did you have any setbacks on this journey as a founder?
Me personally, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, yes, of course. I mean, I founded over a dozen companies myself, and I would say more than half were complete failures. And coming back to the company that I sold in 2006, I sold a part of my soul at the time, and I didn't realize that. And I ran into a burnout in 2006 before the term, was even there. And it took me a year to get back. So that taught me a lesson. So I think I'm quite grounded, and I have a long-term plan. So, says the guy that is a crypto VC. But if you have a long-term vision and our funds are 8-10 years and you want to create value, you can navigate through the noise. At least that's what we're trying. And it's what they say. At the beginning, in short term, you overestimate the change that technology can bring, but long term, you tend to underestimate it.
Matthias, we have almost 2 minutes left. I'd like to know maybe 2 more things, or we would like to hear from you. If I had a magical stick and I could make a wish come true, what would your wish be now specifically for the Web3 space moving forward and for this community? There
is something, in my opinion, very special about the blockchain Web3 space, however you want to call it. And I think it's based on the fact that with this technology, and that's the difference in my opinion to AI, something else was introduced. If you talk to Web3 founders, the power and the strength or drive to change something and to change the status quo is quite remarkable. And I think I know why that is. Besides the technology and besides the industries that you can change, you can introduce new economies. You can introduce tokens, you can create value, you can incentivize the people that you work with, all through technology that is quite accessible. All the tools are there. Don't wait for regulation, just start to build. I think this is, if we can kind of, remain true, stay true to that belief and let's not have regulation kill all innovation, and let's keep those pioneers building stuff. This is something that I personally wish for.
So for all the startups and builders in the space, just keep on building, don't wait for the regulatory framework. Matthias, last but not least, for all the people in the room, investors, partners, potential partners, founders themselves, who are interested in working with CVVC, what ideas, what projects, what people are you excited about the most right now?
So basic technology is like the common denominator. It's going in the background. Everything is converging, but there's going to be more technology in our lives. That's, I guess, we could all agree. And then, of course, there's certain buckets that we're most interested in. AI finance on blockchain, tokenization, health is important to me, identity. Maybe a fun story. Because we are a VC and we're active in crypto, I think we've become a quite big target for hackers. I personally was hacked 3 times in the past 12 months. Even my Telegram account was hacked despite 2-factor authentication. And just recently I learned I have Tinder imposter, so the romance scam. I have 2 now, one in Sweden and one in Ireland, and that is really something. If people get that close to you, if you lose your identity, when I lost my Telegram handle, you can't reclaim that, right? It's gone. It felt like someone was in your house, there's no cupboard open, you don't know, you don't see anything, everything is at the same place, but someone is in your house. That felt terrible. So identity, are you the one that you pretend to be? That is something that is very important in everything we do.
Matthias, thank you so much. Unfortunately, time is up, but thank you so much for sharing your journey. And I would say, give him a big round of applause, Mathias Ruch.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.